In the city of Manchester, on a stretch of land next to a canal and a railway line, sits one of the most recognizable sports venues on the planet. It is called the Theatre of Dreams. It has stood in the same spot since 1910. It has hosted World Cup matches, Champions League finals, and some of the greatest football ever played. More than 74,000 people pack into it every single match day. And right now, it is leaking. The roof lets in the rain. The bathrooms are among the worst in professional football. There are mice, not occasionally, persistently. Council inspectors formally criticized Manchester United for failing to control their rodent infestation. That was in 2015. The mice are still there. This is Old Trafford, home of Manchester United, the biggest football club in England, a club worth an estimated £5 billion, a club that has paid over £1 billion in interest payments since 2005, not to sign players, not to build a stadium, just to service the debt from the day the Glazer family bought them. And now, Manchester United wants to build a new stadium, not just any stadium. The biggest club football ground in the world, 100,000 seats, a building so grand that the owner calls it the Wembley of the North. The estimated cost is £2 billion, except it is not £2 billion anymore. Industry insiders say it is closer to £4 billion. Construction was supposed to begin before the end of 2025. It has not started. The stadium was supposed to open in 2030. That is no longer possible. And the single most important piece of land they need to build it is owned by a freight company that wants £400 million for it. Manchester United valued that same land at £40 to £50 million. This is the story of the most ambitious stadium project in British history, and why it is already falling apart before a single brick has been laid. To understand why Manchester United needs a new stadium, you first have to understand what happened to the old one. Old Trafford opened on the 19th of February, 1910. The first match was a home game against Liverpool. Manchester United lost 4-3. The stadium was designed by the architect Archibald Leach, the same man who designed Anfield, Ibrox, and Goodison Park. It cost £90,000 to build. It was considered the finest ground in England. For most of the 20th century, it was. Old Trafford hosted FA Cup finals. It hosted England internationals. It hosted matches during the 1966 World Cup. Under Sir Alex Ferguson, it became the most feared venue in European football. United won 13 league titles at Old Trafford. They won 2 Champions League trophies. They became the richest football club on the planet. And then in 2005, the Glazer family bought them, and Old Trafford stopped improving. The Glazers are an American ownership family from Tampa, Florida. They had no background in football. What they had was an appetite for leveraged acquisitions. A leveraged buyout means you borrow the money to buy the asset and then load the debt onto the asset itself. In practical terms, it meant that Manchester United's own revenue was being used to pay back the loans that purchased the club. Every pound the club earned was partly going to service a debt that the fans never agreed to and from which they received nothing. Since 2005, the Glazers have extracted nearly £200 million from the club in dividends. In the same period, annual interest payments on the original debt have exceeded £30 million every single year for the last 3 seasons, and Old Trafford has been left to decay. By the time Sir Jim Ratcliffe bought a 25% stake in Manchester United in 2024, the state of the ground was an embarrassment. The roof had been leaking for years. In April 2019, a storm hit Manchester before the city derby, and water poured through the roof onto empty seats. Staff were photographed trying to mop up the water before supporters arrived. It was not a one-off. The same thing happened during the 2012 Olympics, when Old Trafford hosted football matches, and stewards had to move fans because the roof was leaking on them. Gary Neville, one of the club's greatest players, went on television and described Old Trafford as rusty and rotting. He said the training ground was not even in the top 5 in the country. He said that while Arsenal had built the Emirates, while Tottenham had built a state-of-the-art new ground, while Liverpool had rebuilt the main stand, Manchester United had done nothing. Before we dive into the full scale of the stadium crisis, a quick question. If you enjoy deep dives into the dark side of architecture, billion-dollar disasters, and the stories behind the world's most famous structures, hit that subscribe button right now. It costs you nothing. It helps the channel grow enormously, and it means you will not miss the next video. Now let us get back to it, because this is where it gets worse. Ratcliffe arrived with a plan. He was going to fix everything. He announced savage cost cutting almost immediately. Hundreds of staff were made redundant. Free lunches at the training ground were canceled. Funding for the former Players Association was withdrawn. Ratcliffe told supporters these were the painful decisions necessary to stop the club from going bust. He said, and this is a direct quote, that Manchester United would have gone bust by Christmas without his intervention. A club worth £5 billion, almost bankrupt. And yet within months of announcing those cuts, Ratcliffe unveiled the most expensive stadium project in British history, 100,000 seats, designed by Sir Norman Foster, the celebrated architect behind the Reichstag in Berlin and the Millennium Bridge in London. 3 enormous masts arranged in a trident formation, rising above the Manchester Ship Canal. The renders were extraordinary. Ratcliffe called it the Wembley of the North. He said it was eminently financeable. He said the world was going to look at Manchester and see something it had never seen before. There was one problem. A freight company called Freightliner owns a rail terminal sitting on land immediately adjacent to Old Trafford. Without that land, the canopy cannot be built. The 3 trident masts, the visual centerpiece of the entire project, the thing that makes it look like the Wembley of the North, rather than just a large football ground, cannot be constructed without it. Manchester United valued the land at between £40 million and £50 million. Freightliner responded with a demand for £400 million. That is 8 times the club's own assessment. 8 times. Negotiations immediately collapsed. As of today, over a year since the stadium was announced, no deal has been reached and no price has been agreed. This is not a minor administrative obstacle. This is the entire project. If Freightliner will not sell, or if they will not sell at a price Manchester United can afford, then the stadium as designed simply cannot be built. The club could proceed without the land, but then there is no canopy, no trident, and no Wembley of the North. Just another large football stadium, built at enormous expense on a site defined by compromise. And the expense is the second problem. When Ratcliffe announced the stadium in March 2025, the headline figure was £2 billion. Within months, industry insiders were reporting the real figure was closer to £3 billion. By early 2026, some estimates had reached £4 billion, double the original number. That is not a rounding error. That is a fundamentally different project. In the meantime, Manchester United's financial position has been getting worse, not better. As of December 2025, the club's total borrowings have climbed to £777 million. When you factor in transfer debt and subtract cash reserves, the total net football debt has reached £1,047 million, more than when Ratcliffe arrived, more than at any point in the club's history. Annual interest payments are over £30 million a year, and rising. In the summer of 2027, nearly £350 million of United's existing long-term debt falls due for repayment. Because those loans were originally agreed when interest rates were much lower, refinancing is expected to significantly increase the annual cost. Some analysts believe the yearly repayments could nearly double. The club is about to start spending more money servicing debt on top of money it has already been spending for 20 years servicing debt. And on top of that, it wants to borrow another £2 to £4 billion to build a stadium. The The money has to come from somewhere. Ratcliffe explored public funding. He argued that the north of England deserved the kind of landmark investment that had always gone to London. It was a reasonable argument. Andy Burnham, the mayor of Greater Manchester, immediately shut it down. He said there would be no public money for Manchester United Stadium. He said it clearly, and he said it early, and he said it would not change. So the club confirmed the project would be entirely privately financed. What that means in practice is this: Ratcliffe and the Glazers own nearly 80% of Manchester United between them. Neither appears willing to simply write the check. The Glazers have controlled 2/3 of the club's voting rights since 2005 and have shown no appetite to invest when they can extract dividends instead. Ratcliffe has personal financial pressures of his own, so the club is looking for external investors, sovereign wealth funds, private equity. Lord Sebastian Coe, who chairs the regeneration task force associated with the project, flew to New York in 2025 to meet potential investors. There was no announcement after that trip. The CEO of New Stadium Development, Colette Roche, gave an update in early 2026. She said there was lots of interest from people and organizations wanting to invest. She put no time frame on when building would begin. She put no time frame on when Manchester United might move in. Then there is the design itself. Ratcliffe chose Foster and Partners over Populous. Populous is the firm that built Wembley Stadium. Populous built Tottenham Hotspur's ground, widely considered the finest football stadium in the world. Populous understands how football fans experience a game, what it means to have a steep lower tier that puts fans close to the pitch, how a roof traps noise and atmosphere, how a concourse flows on match day when 80,000 people need a drink at halftime. Foster and Partners understands iconic architecture. Those are not the same skill. Sources in architectural circles have noted that Foster commands premium fees. The Trident canopy, while visually spectacular on a render, has been described as a monument designed to project ambition rather than maximize the fan experience. A building that will look extraordinary from a helicopter and photographed beautifully on the covers of magazines. Manchester United fans have not been gentle about the design either. When the renders were first released, rival supporters immediately pointed out that the canopy looked like a circus tent. Even some United fans admitted the design was more spectacle than stadium. But the design is almost a secondary concern right now, because the design cannot be built as drawn without land that nobody has agreed to sell. This is the central paradox of the whole project. The vision is 100,000 seats in the greatest football stadium ever built. The reality is a freight company that will not move, a debt burden that keeps growing, owners who will not write the check, a mayor who will not give public money, a design that depends on land nobody has secured, and a cost that has already doubled before construction has started. And while all of this plays out in boardrooms, legal negotiations, and investor meetings in New York, the actual stadium that Manchester United currently plays in keeps getting worse. The roof still leaks, the food hygiene ratings are poor, the bathrooms are still described by fans as an embarrassment for a club of this stature. The structure is sound, but the experience of being inside it on a match day has fallen dramatically behind the Premier League's best grounds. Arsenal's Emirates is 16 years old and still feels modern. Tottenham's ground opened in 2019 and is widely considered the best stadium in European football. Liverpool's Anfield has been expanded and improved. Manchester United's ground was last significantly expanded between 2005 and 2006. The last thing the Glazers ever spent serious money on at Old Trafford. Old Trafford opened in 1910. It is 116 years old. It has survived 2 world wars. It survived being bombed by the Luftwaffe in 1941, which left it so badly damaged that United had to share Manchester City's ground for 8 years. It has hosted World Cups and Champions League finals. It has watched 20 league titles and 3 European Cups. Bobby Charlton called it the Theatre of Dreams. And right now, it has a leaking roof, a mice problem, and an ownership group that cannot agree on who is going to pay for its replacement. The most famous football club in England, a £5 billion institution. And the biggest question surrounding it is not who they will sign in the summer or whether they can win the league again. The biggest question is simpler and far more embarrassing than that. Who is going to pay for this? What do you think should happen to Manchester United's new stadium project? Should the Glazers finally put in their own money after 20 years of taking it out? Or is this entire project a fantasy that will never be built? Let me know in the comments below.